This is Radio Taiwan International.
Welcome to the news on Radio Taiwan International. I'm Tristan Hildebrand, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. We begin with a look at today's top stories for Tuesday, January 13th. The United States reciprocal tariffs will likely be reduced to 15% for Taiwan as a bilateral trade agreement is nearing completion. 2 Canadian members of Parliament will end their Taiwan trip earlier ahead of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's scheduled visit to China this week, and a European Parliament delegation visits Kinmen to prevent escalation and deter any attempt by China to forcibly alter the status quo. But first, today's top story. The United States reciprocal tariffs will likely be reduced to 15% for Taiwan as a bilateral trade agreement is nearing completion, according to the New York Times. This Tuesday, Cabinet spokesperson Michelle Lee announced that both sides reached a general consensus on the main issues and are scheduling further meetings. The U.S. has imposed 20% tariffs on Taiwan for nearly 6 months since the Trump administration's reciprocal tariffs first took effect in August 2025. The New York Times reports that TSMC will increase U.S. investment by building at least 5 additional factories as part of the deal to lower the tariffs to 15%. Lee explained that bilateral trade negotiations have prioritized reducing reciprocal tariffs without stacking them and securing preferential treatment for semiconductors under the legal provision Section 232. Spokesperson Lee said,
"Currently, both sides are scheduling a conclusive meeting. We will make an announcement once this is confirmed. Following the 5th round of in-person meetings between Taiwan and the US, Taiwan will negotiate supply chain cooperation with the US Department of Commerce over video conferences and through written document exchanges. We will also request support from the US in obtaining access to land, water and electricity, visas, and simpler administrative processes to create a more favorable investment environment for Taiwanese companies."
Following the conclusive meeting, Lee says the government will submit the agreement and an impact assessment to the legislature for review. 2 Canadian members of Parliament will end their Taiwan trip early at the advice of the Canadian government this week, per foreign media reports. Taiwan's foreign ministry responded this Tuesday, stating that some members will return early due to unforeseen circumstances, but that the remaining members of the delegation will continue the visit as planned. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is scheduled to visit China this Wednesday. Foreign media reports pointed out that the 2 politicians who are cutting their visit to Taiwan short belong to the same party and are doing so at the advice of the Canadian government. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Xiao Guangwei said the change is due to unforeseen circumstances and that most delegation members will remain in Taiwan as scheduled. Xiao emphasized that Taiwan and Canada have actively expanded cooperation in various fields over the past few years, and that Taiwan will continue deepening bilateral exchanges. Chair of the European Parliament's Taiwan Friendship Group, Michael Gahler, led a 10-member European Parliament delegation on a 6-day visit to Taiwan earlier this month, during which they met with President Lai Ching-te and several senior government officials. As part of the trip, they visited Kinmen Island, which lies across the Taiwan Strait just 3 kilometers from the Chinese coastline. Gahler stated that any attempt by China to change the status quo by force would lead to serious consequences, including sanctions from the EU. He stated the purpose of the delegation's visit to Kinmen, which he referred to as a frontline island, was to prevent escalation and deter any attempt by China to forcibly alter the status quo. Just before their trip, the PLA had conducted their Large-Scale Justice Mission 2025 drill around Taiwan. Per Gahler, their visit to Taiwan was meant to signal support for peace in the Taiwan Strait and send a message to China. He condemned the PLA's live-fire exercises around Taiwan during the latest drill. Gahler praised Taiwanese resilience in politics, the military, and across society as a whole. Gahler emphasized that even without formal diplomatic relations, Europe is actively strengthening pragmatic cooperation with Taiwan, especially in trade and technology. On the eve of Fire Prevention Day, President Lai Ching-te met with 2025 Phoenix Award recipients at the presidential office on Tuesday. He congratulated the honorees and, on behalf of the nation, expressed the highest respect and gratitude to all firefighters, volunteers, and teachers dedicated to fire safety education. Lai said the phoenix symbolizes rebirth from the ashes, courage, and resilience. He praised their disaster response for building team spirit, boosting firefighting capabilities, and enhancing Taiwan's societal resilience amid more frequent extreme weather and complex disasters driven by climate change. He also highlighted the roles of volunteers in prevention advocacy and on-site rescue, forming a tight societal safety net with the government and firefighters. Though disasters are unpredictable, Lai stressed that the government will invest more resources as their backup. He said,
目前我们已经核定24项
We have now approved 24 medium-term projects with an investment of 28.5 billion NT dollars, approximately 900 million US dollars. These include replacing equipment and improving facilities, introducing AI for occupational safety management, and subsidizing counties and cities to purchase drones and rescue robots. Through these technological measures, we aim to enhance disaster monitoring and rescue efficiency while reducing risks for frontline personnel.
The government is further establishing mental health support to combat PTSD, including funding for screenings and counseling. On staffing, Lai noted that the 2019 goal of adding 3,000 firefighters over 5 years was met. From 2024 to 2028, another 3,000 will be hired to strengthen rescue forces with improved shift schedules to ease the workload. With the Lunar New Year approaching, a peak fire period, Lai once again thanked them for enabling safe celebrations. The Japanese government is advising travelers to be aware of SFTS, a tick-borne infectious disease, as cases reach a record high. In 2025, reported cases reached 191 nationwide, a record high for Japan. As cases in western Japan continue to grow, the outbreak has also spread to the Kanto region, with the first cases being reported in Kanagawa Prefecture. Cathay General Hospital dermatologist Luo Yang says severe tick-borne diseases can cause neurological and systemic symptoms and have a high mortality rate. He advises travelers to wear long sleeves and long pants when outdoors to avoid bites, and to seek medical attention immediately if bitten. Luo points out that most tick-borne diseases are caused by hard ticks, which are commonly found on small mammals such as mice in grassy areas, but can also be found on larger mammals such as deer. While less serious cases include local inflammation and swelling, Luo says there is a risk for contracting Lyme disease, which can affect the joints, heart, and nervous system. The CDC announced Taiwan's first SFTS case in 2019. Luo extends the Japanese government's advisory to those visiting grasslands in Taiwan, recommending long sleeves and long pants. He suggests tucking pants into socks and checking for tick bites after visits to outdoor areas. If found, seek medical attention promptly. What happens to a household appliance when it's reached the end of its service life? One appliance dismantling plant in Taichung shows just how much material can be recycled from your old refrigerator.
At the appliance disassembly plant in Taichung's Waipu Green Energy Eco Park, one man's old AC unit is another man's treasure. From cleaning and dismantling to sorting, every step relies on human judgment. Dismantling, whether by hand or via robotic arms, also requires knowledge and skill. At this facility, 900 to 1,000 metric tons of discarded household appliances can be recycled annually, with as much as 90% converted into recyclable materials. The key to such a high recycling rate lies in the sorting technology. The electronics recycling plant operator explains that if you want to extract maximum value from the plastics, copper, iron, and aluminum used to construct appliances, you must find a way to separate them as cleanly as possible. Considering the complexity of reverse engineering, the operator says designers should be thinking about recycling from the very beginning. This complexity calls for a dedicated dismantling line for each type of appliance. This company was first founded in 1997 as an appliance recycling business. Many of its shareholders are appliance retailers who recognize that selling appliances comes with a responsibility to recycle them. In keeping with global trends in the circular economy, the company invested another 10 billion NT dollars last year to further develop plastic recycling and remanufacturing production lines. Through these efforts, old refrigerators, televisions, and other common household appliances are paving the way to a more sustainable future. Hannah Belinsky for RTI News.
Thank you for joining me for the news. I'm Tristan Hildebrand. Stay tuned for another 50 minutes of English language features brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.